everybody, Adam here. It's time for another Star Wars talk with WallyHawk. Before we really get into the news, which there's not a ton of news, I just wanted to say I've been watching the commentaries on the Skywalker saga since I got that giant box set, and it's really nice hearing George Lucas talk about Star Wars again. You kind of forget how much he really created and how much he pushed movie making and the technology forward. Anyway, the first big piece of news is that the Star Wars High Republic series has been delayed until January 2021. I know this announcement has been met with mixed feelings from a lot of Star Wars fans, at least people that I've talked to. I try not to go off the general consensus on social media, since social media just targets the most negative aspects of anything. But it seems like a lot of people weren't psyched that it's primarily novels. I do believe it's going to branch out not only novels and comics, but into video games, and there'll probably be a series or movie based on reaction. While I, of course, would love it if they said some great director or storyteller is getting their own trilogy, it's going to be set in the High Republic, we get this whole new thing. Obviously, I want that. Obviously, I want more movies. I gotta say, I'm also excited for novels and comics tying into the overall story and keeping things going. There was a long time, especially for me being born in the mid-'80s, where the original trilogy already had its run. I did get to see the special editions in theaters, but I lived in a world for a long time, like many of you did, where it was said definitively there are no more new Star Wars. The only thing us Star Wars fans had us going, that kept us going, kept fueling the fire with new stories, was novelizations, expanded universe, comic books. All of that is now considered Star Wars Legends, and since Disney took over and started relaunching the franchise, I have been enjoying more of the novels than I haven't, even though they aren't really forging new ground. It seems like they're kind of filling in blanks and pockets and little clever things here and there that are cool, but it's not really pushing the story forward, since a lot of it either has to be saved or cleared or whatever the excuse is. While that's great for continuity, it's less than great for new stories in the novel form, which is why I personally am really excited for the High Republic, because there's nothing holding them back, and they've taken the greatest of Star Wars writers and giving them this great new project. Another bit of Star Wars news is that in light of the Snyder Cut being released, and who really cares to see a 6-hour cut of that movie, fans are actually rallying instead of complaining and asking for a Solo 2. I've also heard rumor of want for a Solo Disney Plus series. I'll take it either way. I thought Alden Ehrenreich, however you say his name, did a really good job stepping into the iconic character. Whoever wants to replace Harrison Ford in his prime, Han Solo is such an iconic character. It was a really fun movie. It felt like Star Wars. It was inventive. It did cool things. It had a cool villain. It brought Maul back, which is awesome. I enjoyed it a lot. I think its biggest failure was done by executives and not by movie makers. They basically had the movie done, decided to change midstream, remade a ton of the movie, hired new talent, got new people behind the camera, and spent a ton of money, where unless the movie was like Avengers Endgame successful, it had no chance. I don't think that's fair to blame the movie for. I think they just needed to take a step back, get their ducks in a row, then go forward. I've also heard a lot of criticisms that it was too much Star Wars too quickly. I, for one, don't believe that's possible if it's handled with care, but I also believe that a Star Wars movie every 3 years would be fine if they're great movies, rather than trying to do the Marvel serial several times a year telling one concise story. I'm not knocking Marvel. That really works for them. Up until Endgame, it's been absolutely phenomenal, I guess beyond with the latest Spider-Man Far From Home. But this is Star Wars. It doesn't have to be the same franchise. Handle it with care. Do it properly. And the last little bit of Star Wars to touch on is last week saw the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. Absolutely phenomenal movie. Many people consider it the best in the franchise, and you can definitely see why. And instead of going through my whole personal experience of The Empire Strikes Back, I'm sure we all have a million stories, I thought there was one little tidbit that Mark Hamill was talking about that was really cool, is that when Darth Vader reveals, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but if you're watching this and you haven't seen it, What's wrong with you? It's 40 years old. When Vader reveals that he's Luke's father, David Prowse's line on the set for everybody except for George, a few of his closest confidants, Mark Hamill, and David Prowse was that Vader was the father, and Vader revealed that Obi-Wan was the father. I thought that was a really cool thing, and in an age before the internet, Mark Hamill had to sit on that information for a year up until the movie's release when it blew everybody away, changed pop culture, became part of the zeitgeist. Very awesome. I also think it's cool to point out that when A New Hope was written and Vader said that his father was killed, or when Obi-Wan said that Vader killed his father, that was true at the time. A lot of people are knocking the sequel trilogy, saying that they didn't really have their act together. I think there are some things they could have done better, but what movie can you not say that about? When the original trilogy was created, it wasn't all 3 parts written, fully fleshed out, didn't change at all from beginning to end of production. There are things that George planned on doing long term, and a lot of them he got to. There are also things that he changed midstream. That's what happens with writing, and that's what happens with movie making. So Vader was not originally Luke's father, and then the original line in the script as a red herring was that Obi-Wan was the father. Pretty cool to learn about on the 40th anniversary. Well, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, share it with your friends, helps us grow our audience. Also, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to go to SoWizardPodcast.com for reviews, recommendations, merchandise, and more. Also, be sure to check out So Wizard Podcast on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get bonus content and help support the show. A little bit really goes a long way. There are now 2 bonus Patreon episodes every single month. It's great stuff. So again, thanks for watching. Let us know what you thought. What are your Empire Strikes Back stories? Leave us a note in the comment or drop us something on social media. All the accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. Thanks.